All right. Hello, Oscilla Christian Academy. Welcome to Chapel. My name is Josh Hawkins, and we're going to do things a little bit different here today. I am joined by my two good friends, some of my best friends, actually. Pastor John, who is my pastor, my boss, my mentor, and Jay Finlayson, who's a great friend of mine. Some of you may know him, also a graduate as well. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, man.
Doing great.
Excited, nervous, and ready to go.
All right. So what we're doing today is a little bit different than us just kind of going through a Bible passage. We're going to talk about Jesus. We're going to talk about his role in our lives and our faith journeys. We're going to do it over the course of hot wings. And not just like mild, but we'll start at a 0 and we'll go all the way to 10. Or really, if you know the SCOGO scale, 2 million. This guy over here, we'll see how that goes. We're a little nervous, like Pastor John said. I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited. And so with that being said, we're going to start off with the first hot sauce, the classic. They're cold.
They are cold.
For sure.
It wouldn't be an episode of Hot Ones if we didn't complain about wings being cold.
Yeah, you're right. Just as we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do you do with spicy foods? You can go first, Jay.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So, I'm Jay Finlayson. For those of y'all who might not know me, yes, your principal is my uncle. But went to Oscilla, graduated 2013, went off to college, came back, started working in the area. Been doing that ever since. And historically, I have a good track record with spicy food, both from a heat tolerance perspective and from a stomach perspective too.
Oh yeah,
I've got an iron stomach.
Well, I'm Jonathan Brewster. I serve as the pastor at First United Methodist Church, Monticello, along with Josh. Been with him for a little over a year now. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Jay for a little while too. The Finlayson family is all through Monticello. And Richard Finlayson, your principal, he goes to my church, and so I have a good relationship with the Finlaysons. I live here in Monticello with my wife, and we have 4 kids. One is 10, about to turn 11. One just turned 9. They both go to Oscilla. One's in 5th grade, one's in 3rd grade. And then I have a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old as well. Spicy foods. I'm the polar opposite of Jay. Psychologically, I can't handle it very well. Physically, I can't handle it very well. I'll be getting the hiccups as I get to about number 3 or 4.
And I know a lot of you guys. My name is Josh Hawkins. I have been in Monticello for coming up on 2.5 years, and my wife and I, we love it here. I serve here at First United Methodist Church as the youth director, and I get to spend a lot of time at Oscilla. I help coach football and basketball. And yeah, I'm very excited. I love spicy foods, and I am excited, but I'm a little nervous when we get here. Pretty chill.
Very chill.
I got to say, if things continue on this path, I'll be okay.
That's like
it's not going to.
They'll continue.
That's like a hot honey mustard type flavor.
Mm-hmm. Next question is for Pastor John while he can still talk. So, Pastor John, can you tell us a little bit about your call to ministry? Maybe when you knew God was calling you to be a pastor, or how your life has gotten into the ministry, and how were you able to discern that calling?
I was very fortunate in that I was surrounded by a lot of influential people, people who really love Jesus. And I think anytime you're around people who love Jesus, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And you just, you find that there's something different about people. And I know that's a saying that might be kind of cliche, but for me, it's just true.
Yeah,
right.
When you're around people who are different and who you just know there's something distinct about them, it causes you to question, what is different about this person? And why is this person like this? And when you have the benefit of being around that person and getting mentored by those people, you realize something like, oh my gosh, like that's something that I can see myself doing because you're so inspired by them. So
That's awesome.
As we eat this wing, and before we get too spicy, let's get a little deep. What's your favorite either passage of scripture, Bible verse, or story or lesson from the Bible, and why?
So one for right now that has been on my mind a lot think it's 1 Kings 17 with Elijah.
We'll go in the Old Testament.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were reading that in quiet time this morning, guys.
Yeah, that's I was shameless plug for the OT. It's all one story. So the Elijah goes and does a really big sign, and then God calls him out to the, long story short, and then God calls him out to the wilderness, and he tells him to camp next to this stream. We got these Uber Eats ravens coming to bring you some food, and he sits there, and the stream goes dry, and it just was really hitting me that in my own experience, I've never seen a stream that just shut off like it was the sink. And so it's really easy for me to want to say, oh, well, if I had this sign where God was providing for me by giving me food from ravens, then it would be really easy for me to trust as my literal life vein is going dry on me, because you can't make it but a couple days without water.
Right.
And then the passage says that when the stream goes dry, then God commands him and tells him where to go next. And so it's just really powerful for me thinking about how oftentimes God doesn't give you the next word, so to speak, until the stream goes dry.
On to number 4, and I'm going to go ahead and give an obligatory, be careful around your eyes. You know, your hands are starting to get spicy, so don't touch your eyeballs. It's not a good idea.
At this point.
And we have our lifelines that Pastor John's already dipped into a little bit. We got chocolate milk at the request of everyone. If you don't like chocolate milk, I don't know what your problem is. And then good old-fashioned H2O. Jay, you have one of my favorite stories. One time when Jay was asking a girl out or to a dance or something,
Yeah.
he decided to put some risk into it in a gym full of people. Jay played college basketball, and on senior night,
Barely.
he's rolling at halftime or after the game?
Halftime.
In halftime, in the middle of the game. Game's not won or lost yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay says, I'm going to throw it down. He rides up, throws a two-handed jam into the rim, takes the ball over to the girl that he wants to ask to this dance, and says, will you go with me?
I said, yeah. Yeah, walked up to the girl, tossed her the ball, said, Becca, I think you're a slam dunk.
Go!
You go out with me. And she said yes.
So
more, yeah.
So if I can't work,
It did work.
if I can't
Learn to dunk, you'll get a date.
if I can't dunk,
Oh, tough.
especially with two hands, you know, how could I shoot my shot in maybe a different way? What's the Jay Finlay strategy guide for that?
So I can tell you what I did most recently here, just a couple weeks ago. So
Did it work?
not as well.
I was like, I know you're single, so I don't think.
Like there were a couple of different like kind of themes running through my mind and how I wanted to go about approaching this young lady to ask her on a date. And one of the first ones was clarity, because I think that especially today, it's so easy for us as guys, fundamentally as men, to want to not risk things, and to, in doing so, shy away from leading in a way that brings clarity. And so for me, a part of that was like, hey, I'm going to own it. I'm going to go all in and ask her on a date, point blank. Didn't play out for me as well as the slam dunk. So
People ask me how I shot my shot. On the night that I asked my wife to date me, I also said, we're going to get married.
nice.
And we were married 4
So I
months
didn't go
later.
big enough.
Yeah, I mean, we were married 4 months later. We started dating in March, got engaged in April, got married in July. I wouldn't, it worked out great. I wouldn't recommend that as a strategy guide, but definitely shot the shot.
Both barrels.
We've been married for 5 years, so it's been great. Whew, this next one is a Hot Ones original sauce. It's called Los Calientes. Anybody know what Los Calientes means in Espanol?
The spicy.
Hot Ones.
I know, those 2 semesters of Spanish really paid off, I'll tell you.
So Jay, through the last couple of years, your family has been on a journey through the story with a cancer diagnosis of your mom, very specific multiple myeloma cancer diagnosis, and your faith and the faithfulness of your family to the gospel and the hope of Jesus has been remarkable. I'll just be the first to say that. Not the first, I'm sure, but the first to say that here right now. And it's been an example to many, including myself. And so what I want to ask you is how has your faith grown? And how has your faith been instrumental through this journey?
Yeah. So, in thinking about, and that you're very gracious, and, any faithfulness that you see from me or my family absolutely dims in comparison to the faithfulness of God, plain and simple. And that's been a huge part of getting through it, to the point where I'm kind of skipping around your questions a little bit, but to the point where I don't know how I would have walked through this far apart from a relationship with Jesus Christ. I was in the room right over there at Merge, shout out to Merge, and you asked the students if there was one thing that was taken away from you that would cause you to walk away from God, what would it be? And I sat there and thought, at this point in my life, I've been through enough that, I'm not going to walk away because I know that God is faithful. But what I think would be the hardest thing for me would be to lose my mom. And then literally 2 weeks later to the day, find out that she has 5 tumors. And so at first, really was having a tough time with it because one, it's completely out of my control. And so one area where I have seen growth is that, and it has definitely spread beyond just this area, but one area where I've seen growth is I have had so many opportunities to learn what it is to walk in a more full reliance on God than I did before. And not that I all the time walk in, perfect, complete reliance on God, but that I am having a lot of opportunities to say, God, I can trust you with this. That I don't like what's going on, but I can trust you with this because of who you are. And so, yeah, that's been an area where I have seen a lot of growth in myself, and then that has spread over into other areas as well. And I think that I feel fairly comfortable speaking for all of us in saying that one of the biggest things that I have learned going through this is just the faithfulness of God. And also just the power of community, because having so many people from this community who have been so gracious and so consistent in praying for us and checking in and seeing how we're doing and bringing food, it's just been really powerful to see the church be the church, so to speak. And that has been really encouraging as well.
It was called Stargazer. It's going to be a good one, I'm pretty sure. It's
This is where I started to get a little nervous.
good. Good. Keep rolling with it. Keep going. Okay, I was there. It's not like overly hot, but there is very much a spice, right? Like it hits your throat. It's almost like a pepper spray spice, where it's like it's not burning a ton, but it's
the pepper kind of makes me want to sneeze.
Yeah, when it makes you want to sneeze, it's like punching you in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah. No words. What?
We'll see how it keeps going.
So, what do you feel like God has been teaching y'all through all the changes with, especially in ministry, since that took such a hard shift?
For me, I think one of the most challenging aspects as the minister of the church is you get so used to doing church a certain way, and then all of a sudden you have to completely adapt and readapt and change and continue to do things in a way that, like you mentioned, you weren't ready for, you weren't trained for. The seminary does not train you to deal with a global pandemic. It doesn't train you how to do things online very well either. Seminary is very much how do you learn the Bible, read the Bible, understand the Bible, preach the Bible, counsel people who are struggling and stuff like that. And so for me, it's learning how to adapt, readapt, and adjust, and to curb my own expectations as well.
All right. Well, the next one we can play the bum 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 music. It's called The Bomb. It's the Big Daddy. I'm excited about it. Let's go for it. This is Jay's first time tasting it.
Does not have very good flavor.
The Bomb Beyond Insanity. And it's got a toxic label on it.
It tastes like poison.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle for this generation, right? If you're sitting at Osceola right now and you're hearing this, we're saying, hey, what do you think as someone who's 20-something, almost 30-something, I don't know, is a little bit further ahead. We graduated about a decade ago, or a little more, a little less. What do you think is the biggest obstacle for this generation when it comes to living a life of following Jesus?
Oh, can't do it, fellas. You're going to have to go ahead and talk.
I have to go ahead and talk?
You have to go ahead and talk for me for a second. That one absolutely destroyed me.
The first thing that comes to mind is just figuring out how we go forward as a unified body in a landscape that just seems to be increasingly divided. And both, that applies outside of the church too. But within the church, we have people who are all on board with this, that, and the other, and then other people who could not be more dead set against that. And I think that's going to be a really important thing, is how do we, as a unified body of believers in Christ, learn to keep the main things the main thing.
Yeah.
So for me, and I think it's something that whether you're in middle school or high school or in your 20s, in your 30s, or increasingly all around, for me, I think the biggest obstacle that we're going to face and we are facing is to understand just the truthfulness of the gospel and just really truth in life in general. Like, what is truth? And I think what we're seeing is a huge evolution of how we define truth.
Right.
And I think that's making it very difficult, I think, for people to understand just how to live a good life, and the best life that they know how to live.
Yeah.
In the biblical times, early in the Old Testament, and really, I guess you could say for the first 13 centuries almost, truth was exclusively defined, in the biblical sense about what does God have to say. There was a community getting together, reading their Bibles together, understanding the truth of God's word. And they accepted that, and that was their truth, and that's how they lived their lives. And so I would say for middle schoolers, for high schoolers, your biggest obstacle in life is going to be trying to understand, what is truly the best life for you. And for me, that's ultimately defined by God. And what does God want from you? And how does he want you to live? And I think that you get that when you seek God with all of your heart, your mind, soul, and strength. What about you, Josh? You're in Osceola all the time, and you are around these students and you relate to them so well. What do you see as the biggest obstacle?
I think the biggest obstacle for faith in Jesus and following Jesus for the next generation, for me, what I see is it has to do with relationships, and it has to do with sex. We see the very haphazard and reckless way that the culture, the culture around us, the world around us treats relationships and sex and living together and all these things and very haphazardly, and then treats the covenant of marriage very
not as a covenant.
Nonchalantly. A covenant means it's a promise where you enter into this promise, and literally when you look at the way covenants dealt with in the Old Testament, if you cut a covenant, you would take animals and you would cut them side by side. You would walk through this and have a covenant with somebody, and what you were saying is, let me become like these animals if I break this covenant, right? So when you walk down the aisle for marriage, the covenant, the promise, is supposed to be saying, till death do us part, or else let me die, right? Like I put my life on the line for this covenant, and I think we treat sex and intimacy very, very recklessly, and it's starting to get into the church for sure. If it's not already there, I see students, whether it be other students from other schools or whatever, just the generation that I see online, treating sex very flippantly and treating intimacy very flippantly. One stat that kind of enlightens this: when I was in elementary school, the average age that someone was exposed to pornographic material was in their teens. It was about 14.
Yeah.
By the time I was in high school, and then now, the average age that someone is exposed to pornographic material is in their single digits. It's like 8. It's 8 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And that's average, right? And if you've never been exposed to it, like, praise God, don't. It's easier not to. But I know so many men, I know so many women whose lives have been derailed because of an addiction to pornography.
Right.
I know men who it's involved in their marriage where they struggle with intimacy with their wife because of this addiction to pornography. And to treat that so flippantly, to celebrate that so much in the culture, it's a huge obstacle. You are not what you have done. You are forgiven. You are made new. That's what the Bible teaches us. And so any mistakes in the past and any mistakes that are made, yes, there's redemption, there's glory, there's restoration, but there is still consequences for the flippant way that intimacy is treated. The intimacy that you experience now gets in the way of the intimacy that you're going to be able to experience later, whatever scale that is, right? And so I don't think we realize that we damage the relationship with our future spouse. And the level of openness, clarity, transparency, and just love that happens and gets, it gets harder. It's so much harder because we've been now filtered through this world that doesn't value that. Walking in the will of God, man, when it comes to sex and sexuality, I think is harder now than it's ever been. And I thought it was incredibly hard when I was a high schooler. You know what I mean? But I see what's happening in our world now, and it's like, man, it's so much harder these days.
We treat it also, sexual intimacy, how we have haphazardly, right? We also treat that how we treat our relationship with God.
Yes, that's very true.
As well. There is a direct relationship between our
absolutely.
Sexuality and our intimacy and how we view God. And if we're not willing to be sold out for Jesus, then how are we going to live a life that's sold out on the outside?
Absolutely.
And I think that there's a huge correlation there. And we neglect that. And we forget that we cannot have healthy intimacy unless we have healthy relationship with God.
Yeah,
the two have to go together. You cannot separate the two.
Good word.
So,
all right. Well, wing number 9 is a hot sauce called 357, Mad Dog 357. And just for reference, all you people, before we eat it,
we just went 0 to 100 real quick on that last one.
Yeah, just for reference, this sauce right here, Will Sullivan, who most of you know, our starting center and linebacker and all around tough guy, he tried this last year and he vomited. So
this one's for you, Will.
This one's for you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are doing it.
Go boy, man.
No,
little nibble.
I will.
Little nibble.
You're not gonna. We got a bucket.
No.
It is less.
It's not as bad as that one.
It's less a punch in the mouth than the last one for sure.
My stomach, I'll tell you right now.
You tap it out?
I'm tapping. The fact that I made it to wing number 9 was.
So as I shake up this last bottle, we're on wing number 10.
Good luck, gentlemen.
The last dab. It's tradition around here to put a little extra on the last one, and you don't have to, but Jay, I am. So it's up to you. There's a little extra. That's a lot of extra. I'm not gonna lie to you. Feel free to do more or less. I'll follow your lead.
World of
I don't want to come out.
That's thick. When it's that thick, it's not usually a good sign. All things considered, 2 million Scoville. Well, cheers. This last one over the one that couldn't make it.
Come on.
I bow down to the masters.
Oh, wow. That has a very unique feel to it.
You're pretty good.
It is pretty good. It's a whole lot better than that real sorry one.
10 chicken wings up, 10 chicken wings down. If you could leave us with one piece of wisdom for every student at Osceola right now, what would that be?
Don't be too cool for Jesus. Because you're not. Period. But within that, a really big thing for me is, where do you put your identity? And I firmly believe that there's no better place to put your identity than in Christ.
Yep. I say this as an encouragement, but it might sound a little brutal or harsh. But a lot of the things that we experience, we get so caught up in it, thinking that's the end all be all of things.
Right.
When really the things that we are going through now, and I speak of this to myself, this pandemic, are so temporary. And sometimes we need to have the ability to have a little bit of foresight that there are other things on the horizons. If you're going through a difficult time, if you're going through a challenging period, a breakup, a bad family relationships at home, you're getting into some trouble, you fail a test, gosh, it sucks. And that's okay for it to suck, but it's not always going to be like that for the most part. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you're going to be able to look back and you're going to be able to say, you know what? That really wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Or maybe it was, but there may be something that you can still learn from it.
Mine relates to a spiritual life, but isn't innately spiritual. It's just it's a quote that I've heard a lot, and you've probably heard it too. It's just the wisdom of the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret. The discipline of spiritual habits. That's a huge foundation that I don't think I thought about when I was in high school. The discipline to get up and read the Bible every day is something that I wish I had instilled in 6th grade, right? I mean, I wish I would have had the discipline to pray every single day. Those disciplines are harder when you're 20. Those disciplines are easier to maintain than they are to create. But the pain of discipline is so much less than the pain of regret, man. There's a fruitfulness of a life of following Jesus and following those disciplines of committing to a church, committing to reading the Bible, committing to learning more about God, committing to prayer, committing to just an authentic relationship with your Creator. That would be what I would say is focus on that, man. Don't let it slip you by. Absolutely. With all that, man, I'm so glad that you had us here. I hope that something that was said today was impactful to you in your walk with Jesus. We have prayed about this. We've kind of discussed what we want to talk about. We are praying that something stirred in your heart from something that was said. And if not, maybe it was funny or maybe it was memorable. But above all, we really want, the reason we're sitting here torturing ourselves with hot wings, some more than others, is because we want to be able to share with you about how Jesus is in our lives. Just a 30-second plug. First of all, if you don't have a home church, you don't have a home youth group, First United Methodist Church, we meet on Sunday nights at 6, and hit me up and we'll get you plugged in. We would love to have you. If you want to try these wings, get your parents to give me a thumbs up and we'll let you do it. We got to probably sign a waiver or something, but you're welcome. You're welcome to. Yeah, that one right there.
Start with that one.
And open call out to any teacher, pastor, or any youth pastor, whoever. If you want to do this, and also will let us do this for another chapel, I would love to have conversations with somebody else around a plate of fiery wings, because I believe that stories and hot wings just go well together.
I'll go wing for wing with anybody that wants to run it.
Yeah, it didn't. Neither one of us touched our milk or water.
Correct.
So
Yeah, I was noticing that you didn't touch it one bit, and I drank 1.5 of these and a full one of those.
My nose is running a little bit, but otherwise I'm good.
I'm impressed.
So yeah, I mean, you handled it a little better than me, but I think we both did pretty well. So.
Well, anybody that wants to run it, we'll throw down the gauntlet. Come on.